Everyone, my name is Vladimir Valouch. I'm from Ktor Labs, and today I will be speaking about Kotlin Multiplatform. Why I would like to speak about Kotlin Multiplatform? It's because I simply believe that it has its future, and you can do really a lot of things with it. Recently, thanks to the Kotlin Multiplatform, we were able to spin up application, which is currently also even available in App Store and Google Play, and the build around the application and setup of the application took less than 3 weeks with everything, even authentication, authorization, memory handling, networking. The cool part, especially about the networking, is that we have a single code, so it's not like in the past when we had one application for iOS, the other application for Android, and even the communication with the backend was slightly different because there were some discussions ongoing, and the implementation went in a different time frame, so that the way how, for example, Android was communicating with the backend was not exactly the same how it was done on iOS. That's the reason why I was really curious about how to do it at one place. And when I spotted Kotlin Multiplatform, I thought that this could be the way to go. I believe I replied to why and how it is actually done. Kotlin Multiplatform, it's super cool in the way how it gives you free hand. If you use purely Kotlin, you can write all your business logic directly in a Kotlin and keep it there. But if you find out, for example, that, oh, there is already some image library, which is well written for Swift or JavaScript or Android, and you would like to use them, you don't want to reinvent the wheel, you don't want to write all the code, you can very easily use what is already existing, and this is done through the expect and actual. That's what I will show during today. And which platforms are supported? That might be pretty great for everyone. It's JVM, basically anything with Java. So Android, native, iOS, also C, JavaScript, Linux, Windows, and Mac. So that's a bit high level about what the multi-platform is. It's simply one code which you can use pretty much anywhere. And the great part is that only the valid part, or if the actual implementation is decided during the build time. So what we will go very quickly through, and in a few minutes, we will set up our first project. We will see that each and every project is usually split into common main, common test, that's like common code, and then you have platform specific like Android main, Android test, iOS main, iOS test, JS main, JS test. So let's have a look at it. For today, what I'm going to play with is the mobile part of it, Android and iOS. So let's create a new one. Okay. Let me put it somewhere here. Make this smaller so that it's visible. At least a little bit like this. Hopefully this will work well for each one of us. Is it visible well for you?
Yes. Sorry for being late.
That's fine. If you, by the way, how many of you are planning to try it out with me? Could you please vote? Like, yes, I'm going to try it, and okay,
Yes, sure.
Two of you, cool. So I believe you already have either IntelliJ and Xcode. Those are two things you need to have. Plus, in the IntelliJ, you need Android plugin installed and emulator or device which is ready for being used with the application. Yes, I will specify the path. So you have two options. The easier option for each one of you would be probably just to go and download this Kotlin Multiplatform 1 start. It is here, this one. So just download it, start the project. Or I can actually show you how to go directly from scratch. And again, I will let you vote which one you would like to see. Should I start from the prepared start, or should I go from scratch?
From scratch.
From scratch?
Probably better.
Okay.
From scratch.
Okay. So what you could have found out, and the tricky part, the setup of the project is there, but there are a few things which are missing, and especially the most important ones are missing. So the first thing what we need to do, and I'm usually doing this for me, this is not really a super needed one, but I believe it's pretty nice to have this versions.gradle. That will be my file where I will keep all the versions so that I can very easily separate it. So once I have these versions, the next step is to replace the build or modify this build.gradle. And there are actually multiple things missing here. So the first thing, and what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to let myself help with this one, build.gradle. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply my versions file in multiple places. Here I need to modify this one. Yeah, it will start to work. Wait, maybe I should first add the Gradle. Leave it like this. Here is missing Gradle V. So what I'm currently doing is that I'm going to copy existing. If you have any previous lesson open where you have a Gradle wrapper, just go into that project and copy it over into this one. Paste. Normally, these files should be there if you build it, but somehow it is missing in this setup. There is one more thing which I'm going to add, and that's actually two more things: Gradle wrapper jar and Gradle properties. If you will have a look into the Gradle properties which are there by default, you will find out that it is pointing to relatively old version of the Gradle. Kotlin Multiplatform is still kind of an experimental thing. And that's why I strongly recommend to keep it as close to latest as possible. So that's one thing which I did. I will open the terminal, and in the terminal, I will make my Gradle runnable. Okay, so this is runnable. There is a typo. It will let me know after a few minutes or a few seconds, but that's actually fine because it will anyway do the setup and initialization. Okay, I need to specify in my local properties where is my SDK. That's actually another thing. If you are using Android Studio, in Android Studio, you will be missing this multi-platform template. On the other hand, the SDK there will be set up there for you. So I'm setting it up. There is actually one more thing which I will directly add into my Gradle properties, and it's pretty much just 2 reasons for this. I'm increasing maximum memory which could be used by the Gradle with this line to 4 gigs. First, the build is a bit faster, or usually way faster, and later on in this lesson, we will include multiple dependencies, and with growing amount of the dependencies, you can very easily run out of the memory, or the build will be super slow. So the sooner you increase the memory for the Gradle, the better. Okay, done. Let's run it in terminal once more. Clean. Now it should be fine. Right. Let's save here. Okay. Demo day seems like that. This was working just fine a few minutes back. Should be, I think, Gradle view. There is another thing which I need to do. I need to go in this build.gradle, the main one, and here I will need to actually change multiple things. The things which I'm going to change are again available in that base setup, but in general, what I'm going to do is that I will add a few things to the class path. Those are the Gradle plugin and the serialization, which I will use later on. And from the versions.gradle, I will borrow the versions which are needed ones. If you are currently wondering why, or you might not be wondering right now why the versions matter, but especially if you are using Ktor Client on the native platform, then you need to make sure that you have a correct version of the Kotlin and coroutines. Otherwise, it won't really work that well for you. Problem line 2 form. Yes, this should not be here. Okay, I was able to build it. Great, but still not fully built. Dot module app. The reason why I'm running it right now is that because you could have seen that when I clicked on add configuration, it was empty. But I don't want it to be empty. I want my configuration for my app to be able to run it. So what I'm doing right now, I'm actually making sure that it is possible to run it and build it. So let's give it a few more seconds. By the way, you can actually already see that I'm compiling Kotlin for iOS. While it's being compiled, so let me show you a few more things and interesting part. We are already in the build.gradle. That's something would you have seen already in the past, and what we were doing mostly was that we were just specifying repositories or adding dependencies. This one is a little bit more complex. It contains the setup for Android. So this is pretty much typical initial setup for Android with the classic dependencies, pretty much just again for Android. So if you would like to keep on working with the UI part of your Android application, this is the place where you will place your UI-related dependencies. And here is where you will set up your Android build. Nevertheless, if you would like to play with the Kotlin and multi-platform part of it, that's different beast. And that's located here. You're defining Kotlin, and you have multiple targets. In this particular case, I'm using Android and iOS x64. As you can see, iOS x64 is prepared for Android emulator. In the next lesson, I will actually show a little bit more tuning on how to, in a runtime, or how to, during the build time, decide which one should be used, how to automatically switch between this one and this one. And I will show a little bit more. But right now, let's have a look at the structure of the build, how it looks like. So how the Kotlin multi-platform works. It simply takes everything what is in a common main, and based on the platform that you are trying to build for, it will either add Android main part of it or iOS part of it. So if you, it will never ever happen that you have common and everything like Android, iOS, and JavaScript in one huge bundle that you are trying to send somewhere. No, never ever. Whenever you build the library for any environment for any target, it will be just common plus the OS, the specific part. Right now, let's have a look at where the application is running. Okay, let's disappear. If everything is right, we should see hello from Android. What I will also do and show you that we have that we have a working version of application. I will open the downloads. Okay, opening it. Indexing in the meantime, and what happened at the background. The Gradle was actually called, and all the code which was in a Gradle was transformed to the framework, and the framework is already baked in the setup of this project. Today, I'm really choosing the most simplistic setup that is possible. Next lesson, I would like to show you how to really create standalone application, how to create library project, and again, standalone application, and use already packaging between those two. So, okay, we have application hello from iOS. You might be wondering, what is this hello from iOS and why there was hello from Android? Let's have a look at the code which is actually handling it. So I already told you that we can have something like actual and expect, or better said, expect and actual. But where is it located? It's here in under source. And we're going to look into the sample, which is already prepared there for us. So the way how they do it is that they have a platform which is expecting implementation for both, like when you say expect on the object is static value. When you say expect, it will automatically force you and ask you to provide the actual. So let's have a look how it looks, how the actual looks like for Android. So actual implementation is returning Android. If I go back, you can see that this is the message which we are getting actually. Hello from and the platform name. And if I go to iOS, voila, I see that iOS version is pretty much same, just a little bit different string, which is at one side great, At the other side, it's still great. You can, if you would wish, you can even more simplify it. But it's just the basic overview. That's the basic setup. And right now I showed you what's actually the start. We just finished this pretty much option 1, but going through the option 2, which took us a little bit longer. Right now, let's start to play a little bit more. We also actually finished this one. Let's start to play a little bit more. And that's where I would like to show you why the Kotlin Multiplatform is so interesting. What we're going to create is a new helper class, which will have a method which will return the input string, or the length of the input string. So what I do, I'm going to create a common main new class. Could be, how will I call it? Okay. Common utils, it will be class. And this class will contain length, string, and it is returning long. I don't know how long it can be. And what we are actually going to do, it can be just int. So let's keep it int. So I write the code just once. For the experimentation, I will borrow a main activity. You can see common utils is already here. I'm going to create an instance of it, and I will send there hello. Because I would like to see something, at least somewhere. I will, yeah, I can send it just to the log. Let's run the code. Or maybe let me show you even one crazier thing. I guess you all know print. Let's run it. Let's check the logcat. We'll switch to debug. And hopefully it's not. Yep, it's here. System out. So this is working, right? And I'm going to do a very similar thing, just with the tiny difference. I just switch to Xcode, and I'm copy pasting the code. You could have seen that it was screaming, which is actually fine. All I need to do is either you can press Command-Shift-K to clean, or product and clean build folder. Details, build failed. Why is it failing? So let's have a look. Ah, yeah. What I want to show is text almost identical. Yeah, I just had to replace it with equals. And let's run it now. Waiting for the build. Build was successful. Cool. And I see the result. There is actually one more tiny difference between iOS. Cool. And I know it's a relatively small thing. I'm getting on both platforms number 5, but how many times did I have to write the logic, which is actually doing the resolution? Just once. I have one common place for the business logic. That's what I wanted to demonstrate right now. Let's go to the next task. The next task is that we should try to define an interface. And the interface will be named device, and it will have a method for getting the name and brand of the device. Normally, if I would be programming in the past, I would need to write it, this interface first on Android, then agree with someone and apply it also switch the naming convention to the protocol, and I would need to create a protocol on iOS. But with the Kotlin Multiplatform, all I need to do is just go here. Again, I'm in a command main. I will create here device. I will create an interface, and this interface, what it will define that I would like to have something that returns me the name. I need to define what is the result. Here it is string, and here I can get the brand. So I have defined exactly one interface, and I will ask you, how hard? Do you think that I can just by typing it here go directly into the Android source code and implement it? Please let me know. Please vote if I don't already lost you.
Sorry,
if I'm too fast, slow me down.
Oh yeah, but I couldn't hear very well. So the question is that if you can implement this in Swift. I think
Yes.
Yeah, but oh yeah, it is in Kotlin. I think you should be right. I'm optimistic.
Yeah. So let's have a look how it works. Let's create. First, try it on Android. So in Android, we will create Android device. It's a class. Voila. Okay. Here it is. I can just implement it and return name, return, and I have one interface still. I will go back to the I will go back to the Xcode, and here what I'm going to do, as usual, I clean build, and I'm going to add a new file. New file will be Swift file, and the way I will call it is obviously iOS device. Okay. Here is actually the tiny trick, the way how or what I need to do in order to be able to use the interfaces and stuff from the shared library, I need to import it. So I just did it, and plus device extends or implements device. I will save it. It will start to scream, which is great. And I will ask it, return as brand, return name. Well, I'm sharing interfaces right now with the devices. And so if I decide and agree with someone that the interface should look somehow and it should return something, I can very easily implement it. And therefore, I can very easily even test it ahead of time. Let me show next thing. Define class teacher in a Kotlin and use it on Android and iOS. Actually, here I wanted to show a little bit more, and I don't know. Okay, what I'm going to do, I still have a little bit of time, so I'm going to create a new class, which will be called actual person, again in the multi-platform part. And here I have classic person, which could be a class with some properties. Bar name string surname also string. So this is just a normal class, but let's have a look what will happen if I would like to use the data class. Why would I want to use the data class? Data classes is something that you use, especially when you need an DTO object, data transfer object. That's the object that you use for the mapping to JSON and from JSON to Java or Swift or any other language object so that you can work with it. I will call this one teacher. It's not really that important, but how it is named, let's have a look what can be done with it. String, well, surname, it's again string. I will set it with the same defaults. Okay, important information here. The defaults are not something that you can use on iOS, unfortunately. On iOS, despite the fact that I defined here the defaults, you will still need to define it in Swift. But maybe in the future, it will be possible. Right now, let's go back to main activity and let's see how I can create a new teacher, because that's something what we were showing already in the past. So if I would like to create a new person, okay, I've just created a person. I have a person, and this person can have some name, which would be Joe. And the name would be Joe Smith. But I would like to also create a teacher. And for the teacher, I can either fill something or nothing. Let me use this one. Teacher will be John Smith, John Doe. John Doe. So I have two variables, and why is it important or why is it interesting? Let me print teacher. Printing teacher into and also person. I'm going to run it. By the way, can someone guess, do you think that in both cases I will see the names, or is there something what will be wrong? What is the difference between the class and data class?
Data class will print like a name equals something, surname equals something. Like a nice, all the properties of the class.
What did I do wrong here? Okay, yep. So I have this. And again, something what I really like about Kotlin itself, and that's one more reason why I really in love with the multi-platform. Right now, rebuilding. Copy, paste the code. Val is actually a lot. Yeah, so there are tiny nuances. And here, instead of equals, I need to provide a colon. And replace this. And let's also run it. Another thing which I would like to show here and now is that even the outputs are absolutely predictable and very same. So you see that it is still behaving exactly the same. Data class will be nicely printed out with all its features, all its behaviors. If you have just an object which has no toString defined by default, it will just return the memory pointer to the memory, the address. Do you have any questions so far? Everything clear? Okay, in this case, I will continue. And another thing, what I wanted to really show today is how to set up the common networking. In the past, it was kind of challenge for me how to put everything together. But I already did it once, and after that, it's just super simple. What I would super strongly recommend you, if you are playing at home with it, just go and grab this build Gradle from here. It's already prepared for you, and I'm going to create it right now. Or actually, I will show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back here and open the build.gradle. Here you see pretty much nothing about anything with the multi-platform. And the first thing which I'm going to do, I'm going to add a huge amount of the stuff into the source sets. I have it ready, so let me just copy it out. The reason why I'm copying these things out is that there is simply no magic and no that much to explain. It's just that you need to have the code ready or available from either somewhere or someone. Even when I was for the first time setting it up, I took a look at quite many open source projects and tried to combine the best from each and every one of them. So what I did right now, as you can see, I added quite a lot of stuff into command main. Here are the main main dependencies. These dependencies are important because those will provide you the names and the classes which you can use for the implementation. And then you have, of course, platform-specific ones, which will get automatically included. I'm including a little bit more, and the reason for that is that I originally wanted to show way more, but we might not have time today. But we will still use it at latest the next lesson. Once I include this, there is actually two more things that I need to include. I need to slightly modify also this Android. And for here, I need to directly say that it will use the compile options for the Java 8 because of some libraries required that. And right now, super important thing, that's the reason why I said it really loud, is this one, package options. In general, meta-env is allowed to usually have just one of these. If you're including multiple dependencies that have the same meta-env file, or it will simply crash. This is the easiest way how to avoid it. And again, this one is taken from the documentation of the Ktor. Okay, plugin. One more. Yeah, I'm going to add one more plugin and actually simplify this mess a little bit. So right now you have here free plugins. I have Multiplatform, I have application and extensions. Pretty clear, right? And I have here repositories. I actually do not need the repositories because on the master level, on build Gradle, which is higher in the hierarchy, I already said that for all my projects, use these repositories. So no need for that. And I also do not need to have two ways how I specify the plugins. Let's switch it into this one. So Kotlin Multiplatform is still there. Kotlin application is still there. What is new is Kotlin plugin serialization. And I'm going to synchronize it. So let's see how it will end up. Hopefully everything works just fine without crashes.
Yeah, about this serialization, I wanted to ask because you added the library now, but before when you were using data classes, data class is not using serialization to print itself. Okay.
Data classes by default internally have toString defined. That's and if you would like to serialize the classes, that's something actually we will use that in a second. So I will actually show you another reason why I like Kotlin, and that's the reuse of pretty much anything. The next step, what we're going to do is actually we will borrow a class which we written for the server a few weeks back, actually last week. Build Gradle and networking part. Do I have it? If no, I will just jump there. Let's go there. Academy. All I need to do is, let's see more. Lesson 10. And Kuba, thanks for this class. I will use it. By the way, this is the class which was really written for the backend. So I'm just going to take it. Yeah, timestamp, it's freezing for me. I wonder why. I have the class, and I will very soon use that one. We have pretty much everything set up, flowing. And oh yeah, there is one more important thing. With Android, if you are going to use anything, or if you would like to use online stuff, you need to say that you are using it. The easiest way and the only way is to use manifest, and in the manifest, just write uses permission, and the permission is the internet. Otherwise, it will crash. Once. I hope that I'm not forgetting about anything. Higher dependency. This is something what we already solved. Yep. And let's go for the networking class. We're going to create a network client. Okay. Client. And the way how I'm going to define it is might be a little bit unusual, but it usually works for me well. HTTP client config, and here all I need to usually do is just install JSON feature. Yes. I'm going to create a method which is actually reading something. So how would I name it? Call hello world. And because I would like to show one more cool thing is that how you can pass references or even callbacks between Swift to Kotlin and back. I will implement something here. It's my callback, which I will define in my way, which is taking as an input result, and it is returning nothing, which is pretty much fine for me. The next step is to use the client, actually. But for the client, I would need the coroutines because it is using the coroutines. On Android, everything is fine. On multi-platform, it's a little bit extra work for us. Normally, you would write just this, and it would almost work for you. Unfortunately, we need to do a little bit extra stuff. We can use just the default context because it will crash for us. So we need coroutines context. For that one, we are actually for the first time going to implement our own internal expect. I will call it IO dispatcher, and it will be coroutine dispatcher. The reason why it's screaming, I will solve in a few seconds or minutes. It's screaming because I'm saying that I'm expecting the implementation, but I actually really need to implement it. So let's start with the Android and JVM. It's because it's simple. Equals dispatchers.io, and we are done. That's Android. For iOS, it's a little bit more tricky. And for iOS, I will use prepared code. It's a code that you can find in default examples for Kotlin coroutines. So I'm going to borrow it. It's a little bit more typing, which I'm not sure that I have time for. But in general, what I did, I still have my internal actual var. Here you can see that this is pretty much same as it was on Android. The only difference is that I'm creating my own internal class for NSQ dispatcher. And this one is running over iOS dispatch, global dispatch get main queue. There is a little bit different coroutine or threading model between Android and Swift. And this is the hard part. But once you have this one set up, you can go very easily back to the network client, and all work done. All what we need to do here is just finish our code, which is going to do what? It will get for us string with hello world. And it will use URL string, and the URL is already here. Maybe better if I put it this way. And I will return the value to result. And because I have my callback, I will actually call it with the result. So what I'm doing here, I have a method which is taking as an input actually lambda or function, the block which I'm going to later on call once I'm done. Here I'm using global scope to define the launch on my own dispatcher, which I've defined a few seconds back. And inside what is happening, I'm going to call the endpoint which I defined or deployed to Heroku last time. And once I'm done, I will do something with the result. Let's go to the main activity. Here, what I will do, I will create simply a network client. And the network client can call hello world. Once it is done, I would like to actually do something with the result, which could be just simple as printing it out. Okay, I'm going to run it. Okay, come on, print out. Yeah. This was the mistake, not the result.
Is it possible to make some dependency injection work between iOS and Android code so that the network client gets injected in the?
Yes, sure. Yes, it is absolutely possible. And there are frameworks which does that for you. One of such frameworks is Codeine.
Thank you.
That one works pretty well with the Mutliplatform. As you can see, I was able to do this, and I know that I'm running out of the time, so the last thing which I will try today is that I will show it also on iOS. And go to init. Okay. Let's see. This should be possible. And if everything goes right, I will have also my call. Hello world, network call. And I wrote one client used by both platforms. For example, if I would find out that this network client Ktor is misbehaving, I can, because I abstracted the fact that I'm using Ktor away from anyone, I can very easily replace it for anything else. With this said, I ran totally out of the time. I thank you very much for listening.